A billionaire deliberately dropped his wallet on a busy street to test a young black girl's honesty, and he froze when he saw what she did next. The leather wallet lay on the pavement, stuffed so full of $100 bills it barely stayed shut. Jonathan Kane stood a few feet away, sunglasses hiding his sharp eyes. At 47 he was worth billions, but after his closest friend stole $5 million from him, his faith in people had shattered. Today, outside his headquarters, he staged an experiment of his own. A little girl about 7 walked hand in hand with her mother toward the bus stop. Her name was Luna, and her mother, Rochelle, had just finished a long shift at the diner nearby. Luna's blue sneakers were worn, her second-hand backpack nearly bigger than she was. Jonathan had placed the wallet deliberately in their path. Was there still honesty in the world? Or would temptation win? Luna spotted the wallet first. Her eyes widened at the wad of cash, more money than she had ever seen. Jonathan's heart raced. Would she pocket it? Slip it into her bag? Instead, she bent down, picked it up carefully, and tapped his arm. "Excuse me, mister. You dropped this." Jonathan froze. She hadn't hesitated. Her small hands clutched it as though protecting something sacred. "Luna," Rochelle scolded. "You don't touch other people's things." "But Mom," she protested, "it's his. I was just giving it back." Jonathan's throat tightened. This wasn't about a wallet, it was about a child with nothing, yet who chose honesty without a second thought. He didn't realize then how this moment would change his life, teaching him lessons about kindness, prejudice, and the true value of people. In the weeks that followed, Jonathan discreetly observed Rochelle and Luna. He saw Rochelle work double shifts at the diner by day and cleaning offices at night, always with her daughter nearby. Luna did homework quietly, sometimes nodding off, but never complained. What struck him most was Rochelle's teachings. We return what isn't ours even if nobody's watching. Our honesty is worth more than money. Rochelle had grown up in foster care after losing her parents at 8. She fought through high school with part-time jobs, dreaming of college but never affording it. At 21, Rochelle had Luna, and the father disappeared the moment he heard of the pregnancy. Since then, she carried the weight of survival alone, refusing charity and determined to make her own way. Jonathan, moved by her perseverance, quietly arranged through the diner's manager for Rochelle's paycheck to include small bonuses, disguised as rewards and overtime. But his quiet support soon drew the attention of the wrong man. Edward Langston, vice president of operations and a 52-year-old product of inherited privilege, spotted the adjustments during a finance meeting. "Jonathan, why are we wasting money on diner staff, especially her?" he asked with a sneer. "Rochelle is an excellent worker," Jonathan replied flatly. "Excellent?" Edward scoffed. "You need to understand where people like her belong. Give them a little extra and soon they'll want the whole vault. It's in their blood." Jonathan's rage simmered, but he stayed calm. Edward's prejudice had long been tolerated thanks to his family's name and shares. "And another thing," Edward continued, "she drags that little girl around everywhere. What kind of mother parades a child through the workplace? Shows you everything about her family." That evening, Jonathan saw Edward cross another line. Staying late, Edward cornered Rochelle in the lobby. "I know you're getting more money than you deserve," he hissed. "Whatever favors you're pulling, it ends now." Rochelle froze, her face pale. "Sir, I don't understand." "Of course you don't. People like you never do. Take what's given and stay quiet. And get that child out of here. This isn't a daycare." Luna clung to her mother, trembling at his voice. Rochelle held her close. "I'm just doing my job, sir. Your job is to stay invisible. Nothing more." From above, Jonathan watched on camera, fury boiling. Edward hadn't only insulted Rochelle, he had terrified an innocent child. That night Jonathan resolved it was no longer enough to watch. Edward's arrogance would destroy him. The very surveillance system he had championed had captured his venom, and Jonathan would use it. The next morning, Jonathan called Marcus Delgado, a former FBI investigator who had aided him before. "I need evidence on Edward Langston," Jonathan said. Marcus chuckled. "That spoiled clown? He'll have left a trail a mile wide." Meanwhile, Edward stormed into HR Monday morning with fabricated complaints against Rochelle. "This employee has been arriving late on a regular basis," Edward Langston announced smugly, leaning back as he presented a fabricated complaint to HR Director Sandra Miller. Sandra, sharp and meticulous in her 40s, frowned. She had overseen Rochelle's work for nearly 2 years. She had never once been late. "Mr. Langston," she said cautiously, "I'll need to verify this against records." "Records can be altered," Edward interrupted. I'm the vice president. My word should be enough. From upstairs, Jonathan Kane watched through the cameras, recording every word. The same system Edward had demanded to monitor employees was now catching his own lies and abuse of power. By Wednesday evening, Edward escalated further. He intercepted Rochelle and Luna in the parking lot. I know you're doing more than serving food and cleaning for that extra pay, he sneered. What kind of special services are you providing? Rochelle froze, fear and anger colliding. Sir, what you're implying is, I'm implying, Edward cut in coldly, that people like you always have a price. I'd like to know yours. Luna clung to her mother, whispering, Mommy, why is that man being mean? Don't worry, sweetheart, Rochelle whispered back. Some people are unhappy, so they try to make others unhappy too. Edward laughed cruelly. Unhappy? I have more money in my wallet right now than you'll ever see. And I'm supposed to trust what people like you do when you get comfortable? That night, Jonathan replayed the footage, fury burning. Marcus Delgado, his investigator, arrived with a dossier. 3 lawsuits, Marcus explained, spreading documents across the desk. Always the same pattern, Black and Latino employees bullied out. Daddy settled every case quietly. Edward isn't just prejudiced, he's a serial predator. Jonathan's voice was measured but firm. Marcus, I want everything, calls, emails, posts. Leave nothing hidden. Marcus smirked. You're planning something big, aren't you? I'm planning justice, Jonathan said coldly. The next morning, Sandra approached Jonathan discreetly. Mr. Kane, Langston's pushing hard to terminate Rochelle, but I can't find legal grounds. Yesterday he even said people like her shouldn't be allowed in admin areas after hours. Jonathan's eyes sharpened. Document everything. Open an investigation. Don't worry, he's vice president, but I'm the president. That night, Jonathan set phase 2 into motion. New microphones were installed, an official security upgrade, but really a trap. By Friday, Edward thought he was alone when he picked up the phone. Jonathan listened in. Dad, Edward muttered, that situation we talked about? Yes, the black woman from the diner? Edward Langston hissed into the phone. She's becoming a problem. Pull some strings, false theft charges, documentation issues, anything to push her out. His father's cold voice replied, Edward, aren't you overreacting? She's just a diner worker. Dad, it's a matter of principle. If we let people like her get too comfortable, soon they'll demand rights they don't deserve. Better to crush this before others get ideas. Jonathan Kane listened through the microphones, jaw tight. Edward had just confessed to conspiracy, racism, and a plan to frame Rochelle. By Monday, Marcus Delgado arrived at Jonathan's office with a briefcase of evidence. You won't believe this. Edward's private accounts? Full of supremacist rants. Closed groups mocking black employees. Worse, he's blocked black candidates from jobs for years. 15 years of the same pattern. Jonathan flipped through screenshots. One post read, Keep those monkeys in their place. Show them who's boss. His voice was icy. Marcus, this is gold. And there's more, Marcus continued. He's planning to stage a theft. I intercepted messages, he'll plant something valuable in Rochelle's cart, then discover it publicly, call the police, humiliate her in front of everyone. Jonathan's expression hardened. A setup. Exactly. Jonathan leaned back slowly, a sharp smile crossing his face. Perfect. The deeper he digs, the harder he'll fall. Edward had underestimated his opponent. He thought he was facing a distracted billionaire and a defenseless mother. Instead, he was walking into a trap. The following Tuesday, Edward carried out his plan with smug confidence. At 8 p.m., as Rochelle and Luna arrived for her night shift, he slipped a $15,000 Rolex into the supply cart. Perfect, he muttered, watching through cameras. 15 minutes and I'll catch her. What he didn't know was Jonathan was in the control room, monitoring every angle. Marcus sat in the parking lot with a van full of recording gear. 3 journalists, discreetly alerted by Jonathan, waited outside. Marcus, Jonathan radioed. He just planted the watch. Begin secondary recording. Confirmed, Marcus replied. All angles covered. At 8:20, Edward entered the office with 2 security guards. Rochelle quietly wiped desks as Luna worked on her math homework. Mrs. Carter, Edward said smoothly, we've had reports of missing items. I'll need to check your supplies. Confused, Rochelle nodded. Edward went straight for the cart, pulled the watch out theatrically and held it high. Well. Rochelle Carter, this is a $15,000 Rolex missing from Mr. Kane's office yesterday. Rochelle's face drained. I've never seen that in my life. Of course you haven't, Edward sneered. It just appeared in your cart, didn't it? Luna stood frightened. Mommy, what's happening? Be quiet, child, Edward snapped viciously. Your mother will have to come with us to explain how expensive items magically end up in her supplies, Edward sneered. One of the guards lifted the phone. Police. We need to report a theft in progress. The room went silent as Jonathan Kane appeared in the doorway, Marcus Delgado and 3 others at his side. Edward, Jonathan said evenly, his calm tone chilling, I think you should hang up that phone. Edward seized the moment. Perfect timing, Jonathan. We caught your employee stealing your Rolex. Jonathan chuckled darkly. My Rolex? I've worn an Apple Watch for 5 years. I've never owned a Rolex. Edward's confidence drained. What? What are you saying? I'm saying, Jonathan replied, stepping closer, we have footage of you planting a brand new Rolex you bought this morning into Rochelle's cart. We also have the receipt tied directly to your card. Marcus advanced, showing a tablet. Angle 1. He swiped. Angle 2. Angle 3. And here's your face when you thought no one was watching. Edward tried to protest, but Jonathan cut him off. Marcus, show him the scrapbook. Marcus projected screenshots and documents. Here's your post. Need to keep these monkeys in their place. That's yours, isn't it? Rochelle gasped, covering her mouth, while Luna clung to her mother's leg. Here's your conversation about creating legal difficulties for Rochelle, Marcus continued. And here's your admission that this was about principle, to keep people like her uncomfortable. Edward stammered, sweat beading. Where did you get this? From the security system you signed off on, Jonathan said coldly. Including the phone call where you conspired with your father to frame an innocent mother. One of the visitors revealed a badge. Jennifer Walsh, Channel 7 News. Mr. Langston, would you like to comment on this evidence of systematic discrimination and conspiracy? Edward froze, the magnitude hitting him. You can't use this. I have rights. Of course you do, Jonathan replied. The right to remain silent, because anything you say will be used against you. By the police, the board, the press, and Rochelle's lawyers. Marcus pressed on. We also have proof of your 15 years of harassment. 3 lawsuits silenced by your father. 8 employees driven out. And finally, Jonathan cut in. We have video of your parking lot threats. And your disgusting insinuations. Another reporter stepped forward, camera flashing. Mr. Langston, how do you respond to accusations that you persecuted minority employees? Edward panicked, moving for the door, but Marcus blocked him. Oh, and one more thing, Marcus added. Your bank accounts were frozen an hour ago. The board meets tomorrow to terminate you. And your family? They already have the evidence. Finally, Rochelle found her voice. Mr. Kane, did you know this would happen? Rochelle, Jonathan said firmly, I knew Edward was prejudiced. But when I learned he meant to destroy you, I could no longer stand by. Luna stepped forward timidly. Mr. Kane, will the bad man stop scaring Mommy now? Jonathan knelt to Luna's height, his expression softening. No, sweetheart. He'll never bother you again. Edward, sweating and desperate, tried one last plea. Jonathan, we can settle this between gentlemen. My family has major investments. Correction, Jonathan cut in coldly. Until 20 minutes ago when the board voted to buy out every Langston share. Congratulations, Edward. You've ruined not only your career but your family's fortune. Police arrived. But it wasn't Rochelle they wanted. Edward Langston, Detective Harris declared, you're under arrest for conspiracy to fabricate evidence, harassment, racial discrimination, and attempted defamation. As handcuffs clicked, Edward glared at Rochelle. This won't stand. My family has influence. Marcus stepped forward. Correction again. The evidence was leaked this morning. Your father already called, begging to have your name removed from family business records. A reporter turned to Rochelle. Miss Carter, how does it feel to be vindicated completely with your persecutor facing justice? Tears welled as Rochelle looked at Jonathan and Luna. I feel grateful that there are still people willing to stand up for justice when it would be easier to ignore. Jonathan watched Edward dragged away, knowing the man's downfall was complete. His career, family, and name were gone forever. Turning to Rochelle, he asked gently, how would you feel about a promotion? She smiled through tears as Luna clapped joyfully, not fully grasping the moment. Justice had been served so thoroughly it would be remembered for generations. Underestimating decency had been Edward's most costly mistake. 6 months later, Rochelle Carter walked the halls of Kane Enterprises as Director of Human Resources, a position Jonathan created after learning of her unfinished business degree. Her first act was launching a scholarship program for employees' children. Luna became the first recipient. "Mommy, can I show Mr. Kane my new drawing?" she asked brightly, bounding through the office. Now in private school, she proudly told everyone she wanted to be a lawyer, to help people like Jonathan had helped them. Jonathan smiled, seeing their transformation. His company had since won awards for diversity, becoming a national benchmark. The Fair Chance program, born from Rochelle's story, had already aided over 200 families. Meanwhile, Edward lived a stark contrast. Released after 18 months in prison, he was unemployable, divorced, abandoned by his children, and working as a used car salesman. His racist posts still haunted him online, ensuring disgrace followed him everywhere. One family rose on honesty and resilience. Another fell, destroyed by arrogance and hate. "That, Jonathan," Luna said softly at dinner in their new home. "My teacher asked us to write about our heroes. Can I write about you?" Jonathan felt his throat tighten as tears filled his eyes. "Luna, the real hero here is your mother, because she taught you that honesty is worth more than any amount of money." Rochelle reached across the table, taking his hand. "No, Jonathan. The hero is the one who had the courage to fight when it would have been easier to look away." The following week, Jonathan received an unexpected call. "Mr. Kane, this is Michael Torres with CNN. We'd like to feature how your company became a model of inclusion after the Langston case." The segment aired in prime time. Luna playing in the office where it all began, Rochelle in her new executive role, Jonathan explaining how a child's honesty had reshaped his view of justice and humanity. Meanwhile, Edward Langston watched from a cramped one-bedroom apartment, drinking alone as his old life thrived without him. Former colleagues ignored his calls. Every attempt at new social media accounts failed, his racist posts resurfacing like digital ghosts. 3 years later, on Luna's 10th birthday, Jonathan made a special announcement. "Rochelle, Luna, you've changed my life in ways I can never repay. That's why I've established the Luna Carter Educational Fund, providing scholarships for young black students for the next 50 years. Luna ran into his arms. "Thank you for believing in us when no one else did." That same day, Edward was rejected from yet another job, this time at a gas station, after the manager Googled his name and found the infamous case study of his downfall. His disgrace had become so public that business schools taught it as a lesson in how arrogance and prejudice can destroy careers. Jonathan realized then that true revenge was never about destroying Edward. It was about building something greater. He had turned his company into a symbol of justice, created opportunities for hundreds, and proved that integrity leads to lasting prosperity. "The honesty of a little girl taught me that the best response to hate is love backed by action," Jonathan said during a Harvard speech. "Edward tried to tear us down, but instead he lifted us to heights we never imagined." Today, Luna attends a prestigious prep school, bound for Harvard. Rochelle holds an MBA and is celebrated nationally for innovations in HR. Jonathan is honored by the government for advancing racial equality. And Edward? He lives alone, scraping by on odd jobs, remembered only as a warning of what happens when hate collides with the power of human decency.